Our next step in the coaching communication loop is to focus our athletes' attention. And the way we do this most commonly is through cueing. We're telling them what we want them to achieve. We're making it deliberate practice. We're giving them a specific goal for the exercises or drills. So if we are working on teaching an athlete to start explosively, start with a lot of power, we might use an analogy. Explode out like a cheetah was right behind you. The person can understand that. They understand the motivation and how they would move in that case. That's going to help them pay attention to that type of movement. Not just their attention, but in this case, their intention, how they intend to execute the movement. We could also talk about how we want them to gradually get more upright as they transition through the first 8 to 10 steps. And we might want them to explode out of the blocks, but gradually build up like an airplane taking off. And if they've seen that happen, or we're using a physical demonstration with our hands or arms, we can show them how it doesn't suddenly go from angle to upright. It gradually builds up its angle. So we're using analogies to give our athletes intention of how to move and what to pay attention to. This is a huge part of learning. What goes into their attention gets into memory. And in any moment, our attention is limited. We have a lot of things coming in from our senses. But at any moment, you're not paying attention to all of them. You can't. Our brain has a limited capacity. We can only, in any one moment, pay attention to a few things. And when we want to move that into short-term memory, it's probably around 7. This is part of why phone numbers were built with 7 digits. We have a limited amount. So if we want our athletes to learn, and learning involves getting information into memory, we have to direct their attention. The way we direct attention is through cueing our athletes. We use this through words, thoughts, which create images, which creates feelings and action and goals. It's how we help create deliberate practice with a purpose. And when it comes to cueing, we can create these cues in a couple different ways. We can make them what are called internal focused cues. These are cues where we're describing inside the body, muscles, joints, angles. We're talking about how we want them to place the body, though, what it feels like inside. The other type is the opposite. It's an externally focused cue. Now we're focusing outside of the body. We're using language describing those things and real life things outside of the body. So in training acceleration, we can focus on some internal cues. We can talk about how to move the arms, right? Through a full range of motion, move your shoulder, but that's an internal cue. Can be really useful with a new learner first introducing something. But it does make the focus internal, and this can slow down motor learning. Now, if we switch that to external, which has been shown to improve learning and retention better, then we might go with something more like drive your arm back like you're trying to drive a hammer into the wall behind you. Okay, that's going to start giving them, again, we're using an analogy, and now they understand the intent we want. They're going to know what to pay attention to as they do that drill. We can do the same examples for the legs, focusing on the hips and the knees and how to push. Or we can talk about the ground or the track and trying to rip it back. We're talking about outside of the body. So internal versus external cues. Place for both, but we should be much heavier towards the external side, especially as time goes on and we have a more advanced learner. So when forming an external cue, there's a few key elements. We'll usually talk about distance, direction, description, all three, or maybe emphasizing one of those. But those are how we build it. It's the things outside. So let's say we have this athlete that is, being taught how to start, and we need them to get more projection of the center of gravity. We could use an externally focused cue like this. And we have the elements of direction, up and off the block. And maybe we described it to him. We said, there's a there's a line of fire right in front of the blocks. So they know which way they're going. They know the distance because they got to get over this fire. They can imagine that. And they know they need to get up high enough to get over it. And we've described it, explode, and we've talked to them about the fire. So this is an example of an external cue using direction, description, and distance so that we can really have an impact on our athletes. We can do this type of cueing for everything we do. We can go beyond the internal and move to external cues, and we can help our athletes learn faster. We can help our athletes retain it so they can actually get to that unconscious competence and apply it in their sport.